Hello.
Hello.
And welcome back to Steven Show's My Movies.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a hot minute since we've recorded an episode.
We took a hiatus.
Yeah. And now we're back, and we're starting out our
Return
with The Goonies, which is a classic that I've never seen.
Yes. It came out in 1985, and it's one of my dad's favorite movies.
It was pretty funny, but I did fall asleep towards the end, but that was because we watched it late at night.
Late at night?
Yeah.
Because of daylight savings times?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So I might have fallen asleep for like 5 minutes or something. Anyway, so let's get into the review. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I did too, because, I watched it like multiple times prior.
Yeah, it was good. The one, complaint I had is I think people should watch this movie with subtitles, because I, couldn't understand some of what they were saying, because they're, children, so it's, hard to understand.
They were mumbling.
And they're,
enunciating.
Yeah, they're not enunciating, and then they're also, a chunk was, like, I was, I couldn't even distinguish, the words he was saying sometimes, so it was a little bit hard to hear, but it was pretty good. The kids were funny. It was pretty good. So it starts out with, what does it start out with?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I just remember they're in their house, and then a bunch of kids start coming
with the guy in the prison cell who hung himself.
Oh, right.
Quotations.
I forgot that. Oh, yeah. So, okay, this story has, two kind of plot lines. One is the kids are trying to find treasure.
Yes.
And two, there's this, these thief counterfeit thugs that are in a hideout, and they cross paths with the children, and then those, evil guys try and go after the treasure and also get the kids. So it's, two stories in one.
Mm-hmm.
So basically it starts out with this guy in prison, and he pretends to hang himself, so the chief walks in, and he's like, oh, what's this? Reads the note, and then the note says something like, oh,
you really thought I would hang myself?
And then the guy, I forget his name, Thief number one, punches him in the face and knocks him out, and then he escapes jail. Mm-hmm. And then outside, there's a getaway car with his mom, and then his brother, who's thief number two, and thief number two sprays a perimeter of gasoline around, the entrance to, the jail.
Yep.
And then the guy gets in, and, the policemen run out, but then he lights the ring on fire, so they can't escape. There's just a ring of fire. And then they drive away. But the thing is in the next shot, there's police cars right on their tail, so it, doesn't make sense.
There's, a side door, probably.
Yeah, I don't know, but they're right on their tail, and there's, a police chase through the town, and then the police chase kind of passes each of the different kids, so we kind of get introduced to them a little bit. And then I guess they end up escaping because
they drive off into, a race on the beach with a bunch of,
with a bunch of cars, and they have four-wheel drive and blah, blah, blah. So they escape the police. Yep. And then it kind of cuts back to the main guy, Mikey. Wow, I can't believe I remembered that name.
Good job.
Thank you. So Mikey...
First time. You might fall asleep, but you got his name right.
Mikey's, the main character, kind of, and then his brother... What's his brother's name?
Thanos.
No, it's not.
It's not, but that's who plays Thanos.
Really?
Yeah, it's Josh Brolin.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, yeah, the guy, Mikey, is played by Sam Weiss. Mm-hmm. Sam Weiss from Lord of the Rings. Mm-hmm. That actor that plays Sam Weiss.
Sean Astin.
And he's a really cute kid. And anyway, so it's they're hanging out, or they're sad because they're moving.
Yeah, they have to move. They're forced to move because their house is being foreclosed to be made into some supermarket thing or something. I don't know.
The golf course, I think.
Golf course.
Yeah. But the one thing that I didn't understand was all of the homes were being foreclosed, not just hit theirs.
Yeah.
That made no sense. It was anyway. So they're sad that their home is being foreclosed. So then all of
if it's a golf course, you need all that land, I would think.
That's true, but how do they get people to just leave their homes?
They give them money or something. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how banks work.
Anyway, so it's the last weekend, so then all of Mikey's friends come over to spend the last weekend together. and there's 3 of them. 3.
Mikey, Chunk, Data.
Yeah.
And then Brand, the brother.
And then, yeah. So then they all come over, and then, like, Mouth comes over, and then Chunk comes over, and then they make Chunk do this, like, belly dance and shake around his, like, belly, and then they let him in.
Super humiliating.
And then Data, like, zip lines into the screen door and breaks it.
The best way you can ever enter a room.
Yeah, and then Chunk is, like, known to be clumsy and fall and break things.
Which we see first with him looking out the window at the arcade, just slam like pizza or whatever it is, and ice cream, or like
that was
a smoothie.
Gross.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he breaks like a statue in the house.
Statue of David.
Statue of David, and the penis falls off, and then they try and like fix the penis, but they make it like they put it on reverse, upside so the down. Penis is like erect. But anyway, so they're all, like, messing around, and then the mom comes back, and she brings, like, this Spanish woman?
Yep.
Rosalita?
Who almost gets run over by the police and the getaway people.
Oh, that was her. Yeah, so she, like, hires her to, like, help clean the house out.
Yeah.
Which I was, like confused
because her arm is broken.
Yeah, so...
Plot device.
But then she speaks only Spanish. She doesn't speak any English. But then somehow Mouth speaks Spanish. So then I think Mouth was in love with like his mom, Mikey's mom, because he was like, yes, Mrs. whatever. Yeah. And so he like translates for her, and so she's like, oh yeah, take everything out of these drawers, blah blah blah. And then he translates, oh, first drawer is for like cocaine. Second drawer is for marijuana, third drawer is for heroin.
Gotta keep the drugs separate.
Yeah. And then she's like, then they go to another room, and she's like, oh yeah, don't go up to the attic, there's like private stuff in there. And then he translates it, yeah, all the sex toys are up there, or like the sex abuse sex torture devices are up there. And then she's kind of like freaking out
and just stares at it.
Yeah. And then they go to like the last room where she's like, oh, the cleaning supplies are in here, anything you need is here. And then he says, if you do a bad job, they're gonna lock you in the closet for 2 weeks with the cockroaches without food or water. And then she's like, oh my god, this is the crazy house. And I guess she stays for some reason, and she continues to help them. But the lady...
Well, she can't say anything otherwise, because she only speaks Spanish.
True. So then the mom was like, oh, I have to go to the grocery store for an hour, watch your brother, make sure they don't go outside, or don't leave the house. And then she goes off with,
don't get into any trouble.
With the Spanish woman, and then they go food shopping. And then, I don't know what spurs them to go, like, up to the attic, but they all randomly run up to the attic for some reason, and then
I think one of them was like, what if your dad has, like, the money in the attic to stop what's happening or something?
Oh.
And they're like, oh, okay, let's go see what's up there, because they've never been up there before.
Yes, then they go to the attic, and there's all this, like, historical stuff, because the dad works at the Astoria, they live in this town called Astoria. Astoria's Historical Society. Mm-hmm. So I guess he has all this, like, historical stuff.
Yep.
And then they're, like, messing around, and then Mikey finds a map that's like in this frame, and so he gives it to Chunk,
and then he counts 1 or 3,
2, 1, and then Chunk drops the frame, and then it shatters. And
this movie wouldn't happen if Chunk wasn't clumsy.
Yeah, basically Chunk like gave them all the clues to get to the next place. Somehow, like his clumsiness was the reason that they even found like any of it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so then he breaks that, and then they find out, they pull the map out, and then Mikey's like, oh my god, this is real, this is like One Eye Willie's treasure, blah blah blah. And then he like recounts the story about One Eye Willie
in great detail too.
Yeah, and it was like such a long-winded like story. I was like, what the heck, like I'm surprised they like had it in there, but I guess that's what a child would do. Mm-hmm. And then he's like trying to convince everybody that like we need to go find the treasure. It's like there's like a lot of rich stuff. We'll get the money and we won't have to move. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, okay. So then, or no, the brother's like, no, you're not going anywhere. I have to watch you. But then he like convinces his Goonie friends, the Goonies, to help him. Mm-hmm. And so then they end up like tying the brother up with this exercise equipment he was using, and then escaping. And they ran and they biked out, and then they followed this map, and there was a medallion with it, and they bite. Like somehow Mikey knows where to go, which
I don't know.
I don't know how
well,
he had
I think
this.
they just like kind of follow the map.
I guess they like followed the map to this like overlook where they see the three hills somehow lined up with the medallion, and then the last thing on the medallion is like this abandoned restaurant, which makes no sense because.
Well, I think there's like a lighthouse connected to it, which was then added. The restaurant was then added on to it.
Oh, okay, because like the medallion is from like 1623 or 43 or something like that.
Yeah.
32, something like that. So then they're like, oh, that means we have to go to the restaurant. And so then they all bike to the restaurant. And then it's funny because, like, the brother is like, the mom comes home and he's like, where's the kids? Like, you have one out. Like, you have to get your brother back here, like, right now. Mm-hmm. So then he goes to try and find his brother. And then his bike, they let the air out of the tires. I know. He let the tires out of the air. And then so he, like, takes his bike from a little girl, and he's like pedaling along the road.
Mm-hmm. Really goofy.
Yeah. And then this car drives by, and it's like other high school kids or something like that.
Yeah.
And his crush is in the car, and then they do something really messed up where they like grab him, and they like they increase the speed of the car, and he's like biking along with them, and then they like let him loose, and then he flies off the mountain, which is like he literally could have died. So like I don't know what they were doing, but of course he lives because it's a movie.
Yeah. But
he probably would die or at least get injured.
Yeah.
But anyways,
also that bike would have fallen apart.
Yeah.
I mean, it did fall apart. The training wheels kind of kicked off, but still.
Yeah. So then the kids go up to the restaurant. But they see, like, people going inside, and they're like, oh, that's weird. Mm-hmm. Must be, like, they're opening the restaurant or something. Mm-hmm. And so, like, they're kind of like...
But Chung is like, it's a summer restaurant. Why is it opening in, like, the fall?
Yeah, Chung is kind of, like, the only voice of reason, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny, because he's the one who progresses the story, but also says we should not progress the story.
Right. So then they're, like... They go up, and they're trying to sneak in, because Mikey's like, the treasure has to be here. And then Chung is like looking around and he sees a car and he sees that it's full of bullet holes, and he's like, oh no, we gotta get out of here, like these people are bad. Mm-hmm. But they don't listen to him, or like he wasn't even able to tell them, and then they pull him inside, and then I guess they're caught.
They're met with the mother of the thieves.
Yeah, and she's like, what are you doing in here? Or something like that. And they're like, oh, we're here like for the restaurant. And then she's like she's like, oh, like, or no, she's like, how much do you see? And they're like, well, I don't really know what they said, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know either. I wasn't listening all that well.
Because it was hard to understand, though, because they're, like, children and they're scared, so it's like, you can't even make out what they're saying. But anyway, she, like, forces them to sit down at the restaurant and pretends like it's a restaurant.
Yeah.
And then brings them water that's, like, looks like iced tea. And I don't really understand this part. It was weird. But then, like, the brother comes, and then he's like, come on, guys, we gotta go home. Get your asses out here. And then, like, the mom is like, yeah, get out of my restaurant. And it's like, what?
Well, Mikey goes to the bathroom, and he spots it.
Right. He spots, like, this, like, ogre-looking creature. Mm-hmm. And then he, like, gives him food, which I guess is nice.
Yeah.
And then he, like, runs back, and he's like, guys, I know the treasure's down here or something. I don't even know. But then they end up, like, the brother comes and gets them, and they end up leaving. But then they don't end up leaving. They end up hiding behind a rock. Mm-hmm. And then the guys leave, like, the thieves and the mom leave, and then they decide to sneak back in to the restaurant. But then these two random girls show up that were in the car earlier. Andy and some other girl, Stephanie, I think her name was.
Was it? I don't even know.
Yeah, I think it was Stephanie. And then they're like, oh, we wanted to join you or something. Like, I don't understand their logic.
Here. I don't know.
I guess Andy likes the older brother, so.
Yes.
And the older brother likes
for some reason, she was hanging out with the other guy.
Yeah, I don't get it. But
I don't know.
Yeah. So then the girls join them, and then they're, like, looking around, and, I think Mikey shows them the ogre guy, or something.
Well, the people leave, the thief people, the evil people. They leave. They're like, well, we should go back. But Mikey's like, well, we have to go back and see the guy, because there's this dude in there. We gotta see what's going on, because that might be where the treasure is. And then they go back inside. Yeah.
Yeah, so then they go back inside.
Is that what you said?
I think, but I
wasn't paying attention.
I don't really know how they... I guess they, like, explore the ground, like, the basement, and then they find, like, a counterfeiting machine, and then they figure out who the people are. Mm-hmm. And they're like...
Because there's just a page of their faces.
I know, it's literally so convenient. But it turns out that they're, like, counterfeiters or something like that. Like, they have a counterfeiting machine, but they also, like, have guns and stuff. And I guess they rob banks. I don't really know.
They do a lot of robbing and bad things.
Yeah, but they're bad. And...
they're bad for bad reasons.
Yeah. And then Mikey's like, oh, this is the bottom floor. Like, this is the lowest it gets. We gotta dig here. There must be treasure. Mm-hmm. But then he's hitting, like the floor, and there's nothing there.
Yeah, it's just concrete.
And then, of course, it's Chunk that, like, gets the story going again. And he, like, he's drinking water from this old water fountain. And then, like, a water cooler. Mm-hmm. And then he knocks it over, and then the water, like, drains. And then they're like, wait, there's some, like, do you hear that? The water's draining. There must be something down underneath. And then they move the fireplace is fake. And then they find, like, an entrance. And they're like, oh, we gotta get down there. Yep. But then also Chunk smells ice cream.
Well, they start to, like, go down into the hole under the fireplace. And Chunk's like, this is a bad idea. They're all up there. They're doing stuff. They came back. We shouldn't be here. We gotta go. And then he's like, wait a minute. I smell ice cream. And he opens up the door of the freezer. Mm-hmm. And there's a dead guy.
Yeah. And then the dead guy, like, falls out. But then they hear, like, the people come back. Mm-hmm. And they hear them upstairs. So then they, like, rush to get the dead guy back into the freezer. But then Chunk's, like, on the other side of it. So he gets trapped in the freezer under this dead guy. Mm-hmm. And then they all are like, there's no way out. We gotta go, like, underground.
Yeah.
So then they go underground. But then they're like, wait, where's Chunk? But then by that time, the people had come back. So they couldn't go back for it. But then... they do something to, like, oh no, the people end up going back upstairs, but I don't remember why.
I think they're just like, they went down there to search around because they're like, someone was here. And then they go back upstairs, I don't know.
Yeah, they go back upstairs, and then they're like, oh my god, Chunk's in the freezer, but then Chunk gets out of the freezer, and then they're like, Chunk, you need to call the police. Like, go get the sheriff.
Yeah, go get help.
So then, and then he, like, falls against this stuff, and then a window's revealed.
Yeah.
Conveniently. And then so he escapes through the window just as they're coming back. And then he runs. But this part, I don't understand, because he ends up, like, running to, like, the road, and he, like, jumps in front of a car, and he's like, hey, I need a ride to the sheriff's, like, gotta help me, I found the hideout for, like, these notorious criminals, I can describe them, I know what they look like. Like, yeah, you gotta drive me to the sheriff's office. And then the light turns on, and it's, like, one of the guys. But they were literally just at the house.
I think they went somewhere again. I think that's why they went back upstairs. Because they were gonna take something somewhere.
No, but then they went...
one of the other dead guys
they had the dead body that was in the freezer in the trunk of the car.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so... And then Chunk's like, oh my god, it's you! And then they ended up grabbing him, and they stuff him in the trunk, and they bring him back to the hideout. Mm-hmm. And they, like, threaten him with a blender. Like, they're gonna blend his hand if he doesn't tell them, like, where the other people are. And then, so then the other people, they're, like, in these tunnels. And they're, like, going through the rooms. And they find this room full of pipes. And then they try, like, banging on them. But then they end up just, like, causing a bunch of havoc up, like, on the surface.
In the city, in the town.
And one of them involves, like, a guy getting shot off the toilet. Because, like, the water, like, spewed up his butt. and then he fell.
There's another one with a water fountain. It just keeps going up and down and then hits the guy in the head and he flies back.
Yeah. And then they end up, like, passing through that area. And then they find... oh, yeah. One thing is that there's, like... I forgot to mention, was in the attic, they found, like, this article of this guy. What was his name?
Chester Copperpot.
Yeah, this guy, Chester Copperpot, who was, like, an explorer, and he was trying to find the treasure, but he never returned. And then they find a skeleton, and it's Chester Copperpot. Mm-hmm. And they find his wallet.
Dun, dun, dun.
And then they're like, Mikey was like, oh my god, we're on the right track, guys, we gotta keep going.
And Data's like, wait a minute, if this is Chester Copperpot, and or was it Mouth who said this? I don't know.
I think it was Data.
And he's like, what? If he can't do it, and he was a super, like, extremely good expert and adventurer, how are we going to survive?
Yeah. And then I guess he has a motivating speech or something. Or, like, he triggers a booby trap. And then he's like, wait, guys, we got to go. And then they run to the next room. And then, like,
they found a bunch of candles, too.
Oh, yeah, they find a bunch of candles.
But there's one that says dynamite.
One of them is dynamite.
Dun, dun, dun. But, yeah, a bunch of rocks start falling down, and they run off to the
next room. But it doesn't make sense, because the point of the booby traps would be to, like, prevent someone from getting in. Like, I thought that those stones would, like, prevent them from, like, anyone from coming in behind them, or, like, they can't leave. But people could just, the other villains, when they just passed right by the stones. I was like, what the hell? What was the point of that stone then? But anyway, so then they trigger the booby trap. They're in the next room. I forget what the next room was. Was it the well?
Yeah, I think it might have been the well. Or the pipes. Either way, they got to the well.
Yeah, they got to the well, and then they find, like, all this money, and they're like, oh my god, this is the doubloons, this is the gold. Yeah. No, it was just pennies, this is just a wishing well. Mm-hmm. And then they hear people on the surface, or, like, they see it, like some guy on the surface was like, my wish is to go all the way with Andy, which is the girl that was down there. And then, he threw, like, a coin, and then they saw the coin fall, and then they're like, wait a second, there's someone up there. So then they throw the coin back, and it's funny because the guy's like, wait, what? My wish just got rejected. But then they're like, hey. And then they see Andy. They're like, oh my god, guys, wishes do come true. And then Andy's like, lower the pot. Like, we want to get out of here. Mm-hmm. And then they lower it, and she's, like, about to get in. But then Mikey has this whole big speech about how, like, we made it further than Copper Pot. And, like, we need this money because there might not be, like, there's no goon, like, the Goondocks won't be able to, like, we need to save the Goondocks. And then they're like, you're right.
Yeah.
And then they decide to keep going.
Up there, that's for our parents. That's their day. But down here, this is for us. This is our day.
Yeah, some sort of, like,
something like that.
Rousing speech. And then he convinces all of them, even though Andy was, like, freaking out. But they're all like, okay. So then they keep going. And then
I think at this point, they reach, like, the skeleton part, but they need to go to the bathroom.
Oh, right. So then they're peeing. And then it's really awkward because, like, the girl Andy was like, oh, like, Brant, come here. And then Brant was, like, told Mikey, like, go see what she's going on about. And then so he goes, and then she's like, I'm here with my eyes closed. And then, like, she kisses him. And she thinks it's the older brother, but it's the younger brother. And then Stephanie comes in with, like, the lamp, and she's like, oh, boy. And then, like, I guess they stop kissing, and then he, like, stumbles out, and she's like, yeah, this is the right way, lover boy, come over. And then she's, like, asking Andy how it was, and Andy was like, I didn't know you had braces. But it was great. It was so good. And then, like, she's like, yeah, next time you should open your eyes. It makes the kiss way better. But then this is where the other villains end up catching up with them. Mm-hmm. And so then they run, and then the other villains are, like, right on their tail. And then they get to, like, this, like, crossroads of, like, with a log, and they have to cross. Yeah,
like a river type thing.
Yeah, and then they're crossing, and then Data's the last one to go, and he's like, wait, guys, I'm gonna do my slip shoes or something like that. And it's like his shoes spray, like, oil. Yep. And they sprayed oil on this, like, log. And then he, like, gets across, and they go up. And they go up, and they find this, like, room with, like, a bone piano.
Bone piano.
And then, like, in order to, like, get to the next room, they have to play chords. And then there's music on the back of the map, so she has to play the chords that correspond. Mm-hmm. And she can only get 3 wrong, otherwise the whole place collapses.
The whole floor will go.
Yeah, so we kept seeing that happening.
The thieves, they try to walk on the log, but they hurt themselves in an area that you don't want to get hurt.
Yeah, they fell on the log with their legs open, let's say that, and they were incapacitated for a bit.
There was a rush of water somehow.
And then they fall off or something? I don't even know. What's the point of even the log? If it's shallow enough to walk across, like, there's no point of the log. But anyway, so then she ends up, like, playing some chords wrong, some chords right. And then just at the last second, she plays the right chords, and they escape.
Yeah, the door comes down.
Yeah.
You run off. At this point, Data's like fighting off the thieves with like all of his little gadgets, like a punching, what's it called? Punching glove.
Yeah, punching glove punches one of the thieves in the face. Oh yeah, they go down the water slide, and then the water slide unleashes them into this cavern that has the pirate ship that they're looking for.
Whoa, that's crazy. Who would have thought that was going to happen?
Yeah. And then they go onto the pirate ship, and they're looking, and then they're like, where's the gold? All we see are these skeletons. And then Data falls through, and he's like mad that he keeps falling through things.
Oh yeah, because he fell.
Oh yeah, there was a booby trap, and he fell, and like he had these like teeth that like grabbed onto like the rock wall and saved his life somehow. Definitely wouldn't happen in real life, but
definitely would happen. What are you talking about?
So he keeps falling into things, and so he's really, really mad. But then everybody else just takes the stairs, and he's like, "Oh, they're taking the stairs, but I keep falling." And then
he gets so mad.
Like they're like, "Where's the gold?" And then Andy like picks something up, and it triggers like a trap door to open, and then like they punch through the door, and then they get up there, and Mikey goes up there, and he's like, "Oh my God, there's all this treasure."
And he takes a little moment,
walks
around the room, talks to Captain One-Eyed Willie. Yeah,
and he's like having a whole conversation. He's like, "Yeah, Willie, you've been expecting me, haven't you?" It's like, "No, we haven't. There's just some random kid." And then he has like a weird moment, and then he's like about to turn around, ready to get the others, and they're all standing there, and they all heard the whole thing. Yeah. And he's just like, "Oh, how long have you guys been standing there?" And then
long enough.
The brother's like, "Long enough, Mikey, long enough." But anyway, they filled their pockets with gold and doubloons and gems.
But not Willie's gold.
Because
that's for him.
Yeah, there's one, like, scale.
Yeah.
And there's, like, gold on one side, and, like, they're about to touch it, but he's like, "No, that's Willie's gold. We gotta leave it for Willie. We can take anything else." Mm-hmm. Which I guess is good, because it was a booby trap anyway.
Dun dun dun, spoilers!
Spoilers! And then they're so excited, they have all these jewels, and then they're ready to go, and then they turn around, and boom, there's the bad guys.
Yeah.
And they're there, and they're like, "Oh, perfect. Like, we found you. We found the money. Ha, something like that."
Yeah.
And then they end up making him walk the plank.
Or at least Andy.
Yeah, Andy walks the plank, and then the guy jumps in after. Oh, wait. We forgot. So, the thieves, while they're chasing after, they leave Chunk in the base tied up.
Yes.
And they tie him up next to the ogre guy,
next to Sloth,
which is actually one of the brother of the thieves,
apparently.
And he bonds with him through like giving him a Babe Ruth chocolate. And then they end up following, like, going down the same path. And then
Chunk doesn't want to, though.
Chunk doesn't want to.
Because he calls the police and he gives a story.
But the police are like, "We've heard the pranks before, Lawrence."
He's known to make up stories.
Yeah.
Which we learn at the beginning of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because he says Michael Jackson came in his house to go to the bathroom. And then he says, "No.
True.
His sister did. True. Though."
And then, so then he catches up with them. But basically, they make them off the plank. And then the ogre and Chunk catch up with them, and they're like kind of jumping to save them because the ogre was mistreated by his family, basically.
Yeah, because he's disfigured.
Yeah, he looks kind of like a golem, like he was made with clay.
Yeah. But
anyway, so they're trying to be like, "Oh no, jump rope, like we'll do like this." And then at first he's like, "Yeah," but then they try and trap him again. He's like, "No, no, no," and then he grabs them. And then, like, ties them up and hangs them up, and then he makes his mom walk the plank.
Yeah, but he also rips off his shirt, and he reveals that it's Superman.
Yep.
Which I'll get into for trivia in a minute.
And then, I don't know what happens, because I think I fell asleep at this point.
Now it's my turn to say the story.
Yeah.
So the group, they are swimming, and they're watching everything happen on the ship. And as this happens... Oh, yeah. So the mother grabs from the scale... And that starts a chain reaction on the boat to get it moving. Oh! And so, as the kids are swimming in the pool that's there, they're like, "Okay, we need to get out of here because this place it's falling down. All of the rocks in the cave, it's caving in." So you have to find a way out, and there's a little gap with light, and they put the one stick of dynamite in there.
Oh.
And it explodes, and it opens up. So at this point, all of the people are in the water. Sloth, the thieves, the mom, the kids are running into the little cave alleyway thing. And the boat is... the front of the boat, the entire wall section is crumbling down. And Sloth runs over and holds up a rock that's blocking the path. And he says to all the kids to go on through. And he's like... Chunk goes, "No, we can't leave you, Sloth. I love you." And Sloth goes, "I love you too, Chunk, but you have to go." And so they all run out. Sloth closes the rock down. And then they escape onto the beach. And then we have the authorities come by and find the Goonies all running on the beach. And then we cut to them and their parents coming up, and they're now being reunited. The Fratellis, or whatever their name are, the thieves, they also come running out with Sloth, and they're like, "Oh, they're the bad guys, go get him." But the police also try and arrest Sloth, but they're like, "No, he's the good guy. The other people, they're the bad guys." And then we see the pirate ship in the background sail off into the distance, and everyone's like, "Whoa, that's crazy. Wow." Oh, wait, no. Before that, there's a marble bag that one of the kids had. Mikey, I believe, had. And it was full of gems and stones and gold and whatnot. And the Rosaline, the Spanish lady, she picks it up and says, don't sign. And Mouth has to say that she's saying this because she speaks Spanish. And so the father doesn't sign whatever it is to foreclose on the house, and they reveal that there are a bunch of gems, and they say, "We have the money," and everyone's happy. And then they see that the pirate ship sails off into the distance. Roll credits. And Myah fell asleep for all of that.
No, I was listening.
Also, there was a weird bit where Andy says to Mikey, parts of your body may not be working right, but if your kissing is as good as everything else will be, you're gonna be fine, kid. Like, what? Also, Data's dad is just like him, and that's fun.
Time for reviews.
Times fours reviews is...
So, this received a 3.8 on Letterboxd, and it was watched by a lot of people. So, let's see what they have to say about it. Oh no, someone rated this 2 stars. It said,
2 stars?
"I will never understand this fucking thing."
It's not that hard. Someone
said, "Mikey is fucking delusional, and I love and cherish Data so much."
Data is the best.
Oh yeah, someone said, "If I wanted to hear kids screaming for 2 hours, I would have just booked a flight." That is kind of fair. It is really hard to hear what they're saying. Someone said, "The Thanos origin story we deserved." Someone said, "Goonies is both a staple and the embodiment of childhood. It's got penis jokes, treasure maps, evil henchmen, secret passages, young Josh Brolin, an organ made out of bones, vampire bats, waterfalls, a pirate ship, booby traps, young romance, an enduring bond of friendship." Enough said.
Yeah.
That does. This one is funny. It says, Samwise Gamgee and 3 other hobbits team up with Thanos to find an ancient pirate treasure, but they are being chased by Bond villain Fran Sanchez and Cypher, who seems to be back in the Matrix, just as amazing as it sounds. Someone said, "I let Josh Brolin ruin my life."
What?
I guess they found him attractive.
Oh, okay. Why would you say it like that, though?
Chunk and Sloth are proof that the love of food is the strongest foundation for any friendship. It's hard to find a more dynamically weird yet perfectly nostalgic piece of 80s coming-of-age pop culture entertainment that is really just about the everlasting bond of childhood, friendship, and adventures. Someone said, "When I say kids are annoying, the Goonies are exempted from that statement."
Oh, the mother says, "Kids suck."
Oh, yeah, she did. Someone said, "I'm immediately suspicious of anyone who doesn't like this movie."
Yeah. Not exactly, though. But, yeah.
Someone said, "Stand By Me meets Indiana Jones, very 80s with kids in a small town riding bikes. The cast of kids are likable and we have good chemistry. Have some inventive traps, and that has the feeling of old-fashioned adventure stories. A fun film."
Agreed.
I agree. It was very... Someone said this is a very charming and wholesome movie, perfect to close and start the year with. I just love these kids. Data is my favorite, and the adventures they go on. The relationship between Astin and Brolin is so heartwarming. Sloth deserved better. A lot of fun revisiting this movie with Michelle. I guess that's the person they're writing the review with.
Okay.
That was random.
I like when people add personal notes.
I know. Someone said every single kid in this is perfectly cast, and I will always think that. I think it was cast pretty good. I think the actors were pretty good. Like, they were child actors, but they did a good job, I thought. Mm-hmm. Someone said, nostalgia, the movie.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Good thing. They rated it highly.
Okay, good. Sometimes people be like, nostalgia ruins everything.
Oh, no, this person liked the nostalgia.
Good.
Someone said, cast of your kids loving your favorite childhood movie as much as you did. Oh, what the heck? That's also a personal review. Someone said, a coming-of-age adventure movies are so much my thing that I can't believe I held off on this for so long, but I'm glad I finally saw this. It's definitely something that could have only existed in the 80s, LOL, but it's cool to see this after seeing the impact it had on pop culture. Yeah, someone said, you're literally wasting that fucking inhaler. I hate stupid children. But they rated it at 5 stars.
Yeah, he was going at that.
Yeah, he was, like, sucking on it, and I don't think he needed to.
No.
But anyway... This film had more skeletons and thrills than I was expecting. Seriously, there were more skeletons here than in Quentin's closet. Someone said, not a cell phone in sight, just friends living in the moment.
No, there's another one of those reviews.
I know. This was definitely a perfect movie when I was a kid, and it's still great, but it's definitely lost a bit of its magic/charm as the years transform me into a crotchety old man.
I thought they were going to say something about it being older, but I think it still holds up.
I think it's pretty good. I don't think the humor is too bad. Maybe, like, fat jokes.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the extent, though.
Yeah.
Someone said, Chunk saying, God, I'm depressed, and then eating an entire can of whipped cream. Felt that. Someone said, should have called this movie The Goofies, because this movie is hella goofy.
That's why they have the Goofy movie.
Someone said, the Goonies are my best friends. Bruh. It's funny. Okay, I'll end it off with this review. Someone said, Goonies never say die.
They never say die unless they're saying that sentence. Then they do at least once.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. So that'll be the end of the reviews.
No more reviews.
No
but
more
it's
reviews.
time for trivia. Fun facts. Facts that are fun. Trivia time.
Ooh, that was good.
Thanks. According to Sean Astin, he was allowed to keep the treasure map used in the film. Several years later, talking's hard, his mother, Patty Duke, discovered it, thought it was just a crinkled piece of paper, and threw it in a bin.
No, I'm assuming bin meaning trash.
Yeah.
That's so depressing.
When rocks are falling from the cave ceiling, Kwan Data, I don't know how to say his name. That's sad. He says, holy S-H-I-T. He said he spelled the expletive because his mother made him promise not to use any bad language in the film. I would do the same. The pirate ship was entirely real. All the shots were filmed in the ship. After the film, it was offered to anyone who would take it. No one wanted it, so the ship was scrapped. No! That's so sad.
That is depressing.
Production designer J. Michael Riva said in a National Public Radio interview that before shooting the first scenes with the prop map, he thought it looked good but not old enough. So in his hotel room, he aged it with coffee and his own blood. Oh, when he couldn't paint. He couldn't find paint, so he used his own blood. That's gross.
Jesus Lord.
But it looks good, though. Well done. This was mostly shot in sequence? It took 5 months as well? For most movies, that's not normal. But that's pretty good.
What is?
They shot the whole movie in sequence. They didn't, shoot the end first and then the beginning last. They shot the end last, probably, and then the beginning first. And everything else sequentially. That's neat. I like that. One-Eyed Willie's skull was made from real bone. That's terrifying. The bats, which you noticed, were made of crumpled back black pieces of paper that were shot out of an air cannon. That's fun. Ah, yes. The thing that I mentioned earlier. So, Richard Donner, who directed this film, also directed Superman. So, there's a little bit in the middle, well, towards the end, where Sloth reveals he's wearing a Superman shirt, and the Superman theme plays. That's a little nod to Richard Donner having directed Superman. That's pretty cool. Also, in Summer Rental, the daughter, she's Andy in this one. Myah's asleep.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, you are.
Mm-mm.
I think you are, though. According to the director Richard Donner, in an interview with the directors, producer Steven Spielberg instructed the cast members to act cold and distant toward Donner on the last week of filming, which puzzled him. Shortly after filming wrapped, Donner went to his beach house in Hawaii and ran into a frenzied neighbor who took up his entire day. When he arrived home, the entire cast was there to celebrate with a cookout. Spielberg flew them over to Hawaii on the promise that they not speak a word of the surprise to Donner, which prompted them to act the way they were on the last week of filming. That's kind of not cool, but cool? That's strange.
Damn. They planned that. Basically, did they awkward them out until they left and they got the venue?
I'm not even close to what I said. Yeah, okay. Trivia is over because mine's not able to stay up or awake or at all. As you can tell by me only talking. Yeah, alright. Well, I think she enjoyed the Goonies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that noise was just then, because Myah's asleep.
I'm not. I did enjoy the Goonies. I rate this one like a 3.5. Because I liked it, but I don't think... It's just not in my top, movies. You know what I mean?
Okay. But
anyway, I did enjoy it, so I recommend. Most of you have probably seen it if you're, old.
Old? Nice.
Anyway.
We have 4 people who watched this, and you just called all of them old.
Well, a lot of them were like, I'm a crotchety old man, some of the reviews said. So. Anyway, so this is our episode.
This is our grandiose return to the podcast.
A very sleepy return. And there will be another episode coming out soon, so keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, in a week, normally.
And, yeah. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Hopefully Myah won't be so tired.
Yeah. I would really like that, not to be that tired.
Me too.
Anyway, good night.
Good night. You okay?
I'm just falling asleep.
That's not okay, then.